أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وأعز المرسلين، حبيب إله العالمين العبد المؤيد والنور المسدد، المصطفى الأمجد، أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
صلى الله عليه وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. أما بعد، فيقول الحق وقوله الصدق في محكم التنزيل. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قالت إحداهما يا أبت استأجر إن خير من استأجرت القوي الأمين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. آمنا بالله ورسله. To accelerate the reappearance of our awaited Imam Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, I request to recite 3 salawat with the loudest of your voices.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Respected scholars, brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Trustworthiness is a moral value considered to be a virtue. A trustworthy person is someone in whom you can place your trust in and rest assured that that trust won't be betrayed. He is the person that you can tell your worries, your secrets to, and be aware and be sure that this person won't reveal such secrets without your permission. According to the religion of Islam, the concept of trustworthiness is dissected in two different levels, Number one, the materialistic level, and number two, the idealistic level. In what sense? Meaning, for you to define a person as being a trustworthy person, it does not only have to connect with you being able to put a trust in with this person. Not meaning in terms of money only, and not in terms of, let's say, for example, in terms of a job or a car. Yes, if you say, let's say, for example, you employ a person and you put him in your shop, and this person really is a trustworthy person and he earned that trust, then you can acknowledge him as a trustworthy person. But that's only on the materialistic level. That doesn't mean that you cannot acknowledge a person of being trustworthy only if you do put a trust with a something materialistic with him. No, not only this. I'll give you an example. One time, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah wa salam. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah wa salam alayhi entered to the masjid of Kufa. The mule was with him, the mule he was riding. So he tied the mule outside and he put it outside, he kept it outside. And there was a man standing outside the masjid. He told the man, please take care of this mule. He said, okay, fine. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen entered the masjid. The man, what he did, he took off the bridle of the mule. I mean, you know the one that you tie the mouth and the head of the mule with? Right? He took it so he can go sell it and make money. So obviously he's the type of a person who betrayed the trust. When he went, he sold the mule. When Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam stepped outside the masjid, he had two dirhams with him, meaning $2 almost. He had $2 with him. Why? So he can reward the person for what he did. He can just give him a hadiyah or a gift because he took care of his mule. He came outside and he realized that the bridle was not on the mule. He looked at Qambar and he said, Qambar, take those $2 and go buy us a new one so he can guide the mule with. Qambar went to the market, he entered the market and he saw a person selling bridles. And then he saw the bridle that was on the mule of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen at a shop. And he said, who sold you this bridle? He said, the man just came right now and he sold me this bridle and I gave him $2 for it. So Qambar bought it and came back. When Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen looked at it, he said, subhanallah, that person, we were going to give him $2 in halal, yet he insisted on getting them out of haram. So sometimes trustworthiness needs to be attained on an idealistic level, not only on a materialistic level. That yes, you will define a person, there's a lot of people that might be trustworthy on a materialistic level. Yet the one that has to do with the idealistic level, which is my topic about tonight, we will continue dissecting the whole idea of marriage on this level. Meaning what? The marriage, the commitment of marriage is connected, is the one that requires trust, yet on an idealistic level. The person that you marry to or you marry from, they need to be trustworthy, yet idealistically. Not only people that you trust in terms of materialistic things. Not only people that you can say, oh, this person, fulan or fulana, I can give them this $100 and they can deliver it from one place to another. No. This person that needs to be trustworthy, meaning they need to have that attribute as an inner virtue. Within themselves, they're considered trustworthy. Unfortunately, nowadays, it's the vice versa. Nowadays, rather than acknowledging a person of being trustworthy in terms of his virtues, of his akhlaq, of his manners, of his deen, of his faith, we identify the person of being trustworthy according to his bank account. So rather than marrying our daughters to somebody who's trustworthy, or somebody who we put our trust into, we end up putting our daughters as a trust into somebody else's bank account. Why? Because we're dealing with marriage as a business deal. There's a contract, there's a business deal, and that business deal is basically a form of an exchange. A dowry being paid, and what really opposes the dowry is basically all what you ask in return because of the dowry is service, is to be offered. Therefore, one needs to understand that the person you marry or you marry to needs to be a trustworthy person in the sense that he will able to value the daughter or the son. True? Meaning if that person, that girl that you marry your son to, or the vice versa, they need to be able to value them. Yes, indeed, they're a trust. A daughter is considered to be a trust. Yet, it's a trust that needs to be valid according to the narration of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Al-mar'atu rayhan wa laysat biqahramana." He says, a woman is like a scent, so treat her like a scent. Do not treat her like a person who is a servant or a slave. True? So the person that you marry your daughter to needs to be able to acknowledge that there's a faith. There is this whole notion of rahmah. And we said in the previous lecture about marriage that Allah made mawadda and rahmah. True? He made mercy and compassion. So compassion meaning what? Meaning the two sides need to acknowledge their roles. They need to understand what the roles are. Yet if one of them cannot perform in a certain way, this is where mercy has to come. This is why Allah said, mercy and compassion and mercy. True? Mawadda and rahmah. Mawadda is to follow, it's ittiba. True? So mawadda comes first. Yet if the one of the two sides cannot provide, then there has to come mercy. There has to come the whole notion of understanding. True? Resulting from this introduction, we will explain and we will dissect this idea of marriage again, inshallah, or we will continue where we finished. And this time it's in accordance to two different points. The first one that we need to understand is the form and shape the marriage process needs to happen in accordance to. So we have to understand in what form one is supposed to be married. And then the second point we will talk about is what are the factors that strengthen the relationship of marriage. We've explained in the previous lecture that what are the characteristics that you need to look into a spouse in order for you to get married to and take a decision. True? If you don't mind, if you can just put down the heating a little bit because it's extremely hot over here.
عواطف بلند صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Turn it off for me.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
I should have said that from the first night. Really hot every single night. So going back to the topic is that this is the first thing that we need to dissect, which is what the form and shape that the marriage process should happen in accordance to. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He provided us with a ni'mah called the Quran, true? And to us, as the followers of the Ahlul Bayt school of thought, we acknowledge that we are indeed connected to the Islamic belief in the first place, true? Since we are connected to the Islamic belief, what is our manual as Muslims? Indeed, it is the Quran. So everything we should refer to is back to the Quran. That even when it comes to the marriage process, one should not refer to the community. one should not refer to the social status within the process of marriage. One should not say that, you know what, I'm marrying my daughter in such a way because this is the norm. One should not say that, you know what, I'm asking for such a dowry because this is what's known in our community. This is the amount that you pay in a dowry. Why? What you're doing is that if that thing does not match the hukm and the ruling of the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, indeed you're stepping into ma'siyah. You are opposing the hukm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore one needs to take this into consideration. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided us with a beautiful story in the Quran which explains the form of marriage, how did it happen. And the first level, and according to what? How did the two meet? Number two, what went between the spouse, between the man and the father? And number three, how did the marriage, what was the marriage contract? What was the base of the marriage contract? Nabi Musa salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. That is Wallahumma salli ala In this chapter of the story of Nabi Musa salawatullah wa salamu alayhi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that Nabi Musa alayhi salam entered until he reached a place called Madian. This place called Madian, there was a well over there that the people in that city, they go and they water their flocks from that well. When he got there, he realized that there was a lot of people around the well, and then he realized that there were two women standing on the side with their flock of sheep, and they did not enter between the men to water their flocks. Nabi Musa alayhi salam came and approached them, and he said, قَالَ مَا خَطْبُكُمَا? What is your deal? What is wrong? Why aren't you watering there? He said, قَالَتَ لَا نَسْقِي حَتَّى يُصْدِرَ الرِّعَاءُ لَنَا وَأَبُونَا شَيْخٌ كَبِيرٌ. That indeed we cannot water our flocks until the men move aside, and since our father is an old man, meaning our father is an old man, he can't really do this job anymore, this work, so we have to help out our father. Yet, look at the amount of shyness those two girls had. Therefore, Nabi Musa alayhi salam asked them. He saw the signs of them being the daughters of Anbiya. And therefore, he asked them this question in what sense? So you can understand what is the reason behind them not mingling with the other gender. So they realized that there was men around the well, and therefore them being as shy women, bashful mu'minat, believers, they did not go in the middle and enter to mingle with the other men. So imagine how cautious they were. And this is the wajib of every woman in this world and every man, that to be cautious. You see a group of women that you don't enter and you start mingling with them. And number two, on the other side, the same thing, that a woman should act the same way. True? So Nabi Musa alayhi salam, what did he do? What he said, okay, fine. When they moved, the people moved, what happened is they used to cover the well with a big rock. That rock required 40 men, or a group of men in some narrations, maybe 17, and in some narrations 40, to remove it and put it back. So Nabi Musa alayhi salam, what he did, he went, he carried the rock, took it aside, and then he watered their flocks. So that's what Nabi Musa did. And then the Quran continues by saying that Nabi Musa ثُمَّ تَوَلَّى إِلَى الظِّلِّ. Then he went and sat in the shade. Meaning what? He finished his job, so he left. See, sometimes when you are put in a situation where you need to help your Muslim sister or Muslim brother, let's say for example, just do what you need to do and leave. You know, not, oh sister, if you need anything, are you sure? Do you need anything else? Or if you do need anything else, I can give you my email. Maybe one day you were stranded in the middle of the street and you needed a boost for the battery. I can drive, no problem. So basically what? Do what you're supposed to do your ihsan and then finish. And even the scholars of akhlaq say what? They dissect this concept on a beautiful level. They say what? They say the concept of ihsan, finish it, complete it, seal it, and then leave. Why? Because the person you just did ihsan on, don't see the fact he's going to stay there and he's going to always try to thank you. So don't always put him in that spot. So do your wajib, do your ihsan, and then leave. True? So be careful that you have to take into consideration the other people's feelings. Right? So therefore Nabi Musa alayhi salam, he went, he stepped aside, sat in the shade, and then he raised his hands in dua. And he said, قال ربي إني لما أنزلت إلي من خير فقير. Oh Allah, indeed, I am still poor, even though after all what you've given me. So first of all, he acknowledged that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided him with a lot of things. He provided him with that strength, with the signs of Nubuwah. Second of all is that he said that I'm still poor. Here the scholar Sayyid Tabatabai says what? He said he's still poor because he means that he still does not have a family. True, for the past week we've been talking about this whole sense of belonging. True, be it to a brotherhood, to a community, to a society, to a family, marriage. True, there's a need for this, that a human being, it's within his instinct that he always wants to be connected. He wants to have somebody to connect with, somebody that he connects to belong to. True, or to someone to belong to him. So basically that's what Nabi Musa said, that I still do not have a family. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered back his dua. And this is what we said, remember, in the last lecture about the whole concept of dua. When you pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to provide you a comfort to your eye from your wives and your children, you will realize that this is when you will get your call answered back. So don't only just ask for the whole fact that you just want somebody. No, ask that you want somebody because of a certain result. That you have to have a result. Not just somebody out of nowhere. Therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered back his dua. What does the Quran say? The verse that I started with at the beginning of this lecture. Before it. فَجَاءَتْهُ إِحْدَاهُمَا تَمْشِي عَلَى اسْتِحْيَاءٍ. One of them came to him walking, but what the Quran describes even the way she was walking with bashfulness. Walking with shyness. See, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala insist on describing the way she walks? The Quran is eloquent, and one of the signs of eloquence is that to be brief, yet get to the point. Quran was basically describing that because he was showing Nabi Musa the other sign of a good woman, of the right spouse to choose, the right woman to choose when you get married. Is that when she was walking, she was being bashful, she was being shy. You know, and this is why as some our jurists, they do say that some of the shoes women wear might be haram. And this is why they say, according to the other verses in the Quran, that even high heels and stilettos might be haram. Why? Because believe it or not, if you look into the study of these things, of these shoes and boots and whatever it is, if you look into the background of them, you will realize that they're made so a woman can walk to reveal certain body parts. When she walks in this way, some body parts get revealed, and therefore the jurists say that these might be haram, especially if they make a noise. Basically, when you're wearing those high heels, what are you doing? Well, obviously they're going to make a noise. So why are you wearing them? True. So wearing them, they're going to make a noise and they're going to attract attention. People are going to look at you. Stranger men are going to look at you. And when they're going to look at the source of the noise. True? So basically, this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing her. And subhanAllah, that even when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when the narrations describe when Sayyida Zahra alayhi salam stepped out of her house. When Sayyida Zahra alayhi salam left her house to give the lecture in the masjid, Sayyida Zahra could have walked into the masjid from her house. There was a door that leads to the masjid from her house. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he shut down all the doors that lead to the masjid except the door of the house of Fatima sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But she went from the front door, and the description of her leaving is so specific. It says what? And by the way, this whole khutbah, this whole lecture sermon of Sayyidina Zahra alayhi salam, do you know that the chain of narrators, they go to who? Sayyidina Zainab alayhi salam. Sayyidina Zainab at that point was what, maybe 4 or 6? 4 or 5, and then she memorized that sermon of Sayyidina Zahra alayhi salam. The description says what? Sayyidina Zahra, when she left surrounded by the women of her tribe, Bani Hashim. And the description goes on that says, تمشي لا تخرم مشيتها مشية أبيها. That the way she walks is exactly like the way how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam walks. And Rasulullah used to walk with extreme humbleness. True. Number 3 is that she walked, the narration says, تَطَأُ ذُيُولَهَا, that she steps on her tails. What does this mean? Meaning that her chadar was extremely long, that she steps on it. Ya Rasulullah. Ya Fatima, just come and look right now how hijab became. What happened? As that sunnah of Sayyidina Zahra alayhi salam, she's our role model. True? Is that chadar was extremely long, meaning it covered her feet. So therefore she was stepping on it. True? So basically, that woman that when she came, one of the daughters of Nabi Shu'aib alayhi salam, she came to Nabi Musa walking with bashfulness. She told him, my father would like to invite you to reward you for what you've done to us. Right? Then the narration describes that he was walking back with her to get there. True? When she got to the house, she told Nabi Shu'aib, this is the verse that I started with, قالت إحداهما يا أبت استأجره إن خير من استأجرت القوي الأمين. One of them said to her father, Nabi Shu'aib, oh my father, employ him. True? Meaning what? Meaning, oh my father, take him, kind of adopt or marry him, in the sense of, why? She said, indeed, the best of you who you employ is the truthful, is the strong and the trustworthy. In what sense? See, let me elaborate a bit. See, here, the Quran is trying to show you a mature, wise woman, that she saw the right characteristics in a man who's going to be her future husband, and therefore she said to her father, oh father, employ him. Meaning what? Oh father, that if you see the characteristics, if you see what I see, and indeed you do, you're Nabi, then make sure that I do agree if you would want to marry me to him. So you understand, is that her whole notion of wisdom, is that she was wise, she understood what are the right characteristics that you should pick a husband on, depending on. That's why she told him, employ him. Indeed, the best you employ is what? The truthful, is the strong, and the trustworthy. Strong in what sense? Meaning that he was able to control his nafs. So number one, that he was able to lift that rock. And number two, he was able to control his nafs. Why? Nabi Shu'aib asked his daughter. She said, father, when I came to him and I told him my father would like to invite you, he made sure that when we first started walking, he didn't know the way, so I had to be walking in front of him. So he told me, you know what, don't walk in front of me. I don't want to stare at you. So therefore walk behind me and lead me the way. Just tell me, give me the directions. So he walked in front of me and I walked behind him. And Nabi Musa didn't do this because he was a Saudi, right? Obviously because he had taqwa and iman. This is the whole notion of understanding taqwa and iman, what it is about. Not, please sister, walk in first, and go up the stairs and I'll walk behind. It doesn't work like that. But sometimes we need to keep the sight. The sight is a problem, Allah. The sight is, may Allah be with you in Montreal. May Allah be with you.
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Haidery. Aur digar salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
So basically, she said, then he walked in front of me, I walked behind him. Then he told me, do not talk to me because your voice might be tempting. So I said, then how do I lead you? How do I give you the directions? He said, carry some stones on you, and every time if you want me to go right or left, throw one in a direction. See, subhanallah, nobody's saying that this is the only way to get married. And nobody's saying that now in 2013 or to almost 2013 actually? I guess almost in 2013. Yeah, anyways. So in 2013, you know what did they say? They say, nobody's saying that this is the only way. And nobody's saying that go to that limit. If you can, nurun ala nur. Wonderful. If you can't, all what the Quran is trying to tell you, be specific when it comes to Islamic laws. Be careful. Be careful. Meaning, yes, nobody's going to tell right now, let's say for example, carry rocks or so this, and if it does, light upon light. But if it didn't, then be specific in your Islamic laws. Be careful. Do not jump into something and do not exceed the limits of the Islamic laws when it comes to mingling with the other gender. So Nabi Shu'aib alayhi salam, the reason what she meant is that she was basically proposing to Nabi Musa. The ayah after it says what? قال إني أريد أن أنكحك إحدى ابنتي هاتين. Nabi Shu'aib then, as soon as the daughter said this, he said, I desire to marry you one of my daughters, one of those two daughters. True? What is the condition? على, meaning right away, the dowry. What is the dowry? على أن تأجرني 8 حجج. So basically, I desire to marry one of these two daughters of mine to you on the condition that you should serve me for 8 years. Meaning what, I'm an old man, and I own a farm, and I have a flock of sheep, and I need somebody to take care of them. And this to teach you what? Again, we're speaking about the form and shape that marriage happen in. Keep this in mind. What we're trying to say, we're trying to identify what is the best form to take, for marriage to take. This meaning what? What Nabi Shu'aib alayhi salam did is that, okay, since you're a poor man, you're a traveler, عابر السبيل, true, you're a traveler, you don't have a job, you don't have an account, you don't have money, wealth, since I will help you out in this. That imagine what Nabi Shu'aib did, that the dowry of his daughter was basically given a job to Nabi Musa. Now you understand? So when one proposes to you and you realize that he has the characteristics of those manhood, the strong and the trustworthy, what you do if he does not have that financial support, and you do, then you should give him that financial support. And I'm not saying go the extreme of paying him the dowry, because that's a custom I'm totally against. That's a custom that is, I think, from the Hindu religion, not the Islamic religion. Not like that, not at all. A man needs to have the capability. Yet look into the capability of the man. Is he able to provide? That's what you need to ask. Not the wealth, not the account, not what you have, not what you own, not what did you inherit, what do you have back home, a house, whatever, a yacht. Anyways, so basically what happens in this case, that since you have that financial stability, that you give him that boost. That support should come from you. And this is what Nabi Shu'aib did. And what did he say? Go on. He says, على أن تأجرني 8 حجج فإن أتممت 10 من عندك. And if you finish 10, meaning if you serve me for those 10 years, then that's from you. Meaning give him a choice. ولا أريد أن أشق عليك. And indeed, I do not want to be hard on you. Ya Rasulullah. See, nowadays, it's really hard sometimes when we put so many conditions. See, what happens in this case, by God, it backfires. It never works out. When we put a lot of conditions on that marriage, what we're doing is that we're kind of complicating things. When the couple step into the house and they live together, there's going to be tension all the time. Why? Because the husband is always going to tell the wife, I paid for you. There's this money sense, this materialistic sense that came in the middle. And she's going to reply, well, I'm worth it. And this is what's going to happen more and more and more. And that won't work. There needs to be the set of dowry which is totally different. I mean, for God's sake, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, married Sayyida Zahra, the mistress of the woman of this universe. الصديقة الكبرى. To who? If Sayyida Zahra was Siddiqa al-Kubra, then obviously whoever has to marry Sayyida Zahra has to be Siddiq. So whoever marries Sayyida Zahra has to be the Siddiq of the time.
No doubt.
The Siddiq al-Akbar, not only a Siddiq. Because she's Siddiqa Kubra. True? Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam says, أنا الصديق الأكبر والفاروق الأعظم.
Haidery! Ya Ali! Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Imam Ali alayhi salam says that what? I am a great truthful one, and I am the greatest Faruq. I am the greatest criterion. لا يقولها بعدي إلا كذاب. Nobody claims this title after me except a liar. And I don't want to say the rest of it. Anyways, so basically what Rasulullah ﷺ did, he found her somebody on the level of her virtue. Do you understand that? The level on her, meaning person who has the same level when it comes to virtues, inner qualities. And this is what you need to do as a father sometimes. That you need to find somebody for your daughter. And find for your daughter before you find for your son. That's what Rasulullah says. He says, marry for your daughter, look for your daughter before you look for your own son sometimes. So find somebody who has the same virtues, the same inner qualities, and marry them. So this is what Rasulullah ﷺ said, is that at this point, When he found, what was the dowry of Sayyidina Zahra? It was the shield of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. When it was the shield of, and that's not a, by the way, that's not a coincidence. Ali ibn Abi Talib, why did Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tell him, sell your shield? He didn't tell him, sell your, let's say for example, anything else you have. He told him, sell your shield. Because Ali ibn Abi Talib, after he marries Fatima, he does not need protection anymore on the battlefield. And therefore, one of the narrations says that Ali ibn Abi Talib, after he got married to Sayyidina Zahra, Ghazwat Uhud came. He entered the battlefield saying what? Ana Aliyun zawju Fatima. And this is something not normal, by the way. Back in the days, no one Arabian man said that he would be proud of that he is married to his wife. Ali would say, I am Ali, the husband of Fatima. Now imagine all this. Why? Because there was virtues that were common. And therefore one needs to understand that as long as there are common virtues, Iman, Taqwa, Aqidah, Akhlaq, love for Ahlul Bayt, which is extremely important because it has an effect on that child, Salat, Siyam, all the fiqh laws are there, paying his khumus, sadaqah, all this, then this is how it should happen. Then the financial status makes no sense. In fact, if a father puts a condition, that the financial status is something that needs to be taken in consideration in terms of his daughter's marriage, his guardianship, his authority over his daughter breaks, by the way. This is what a lot of people need to understand, according to the fiqh laws. That Iman is the first thing you need to look into. Nothing else. Akhlaq and Iman. So therefore, Nabi Shu'aib alayhi salam told him this what? فَإِنْ أَتَمَّ, and if you finish, you complete 10, it will be from you. And then وَلَا أُرِيدُ أَنْ أَشُقَّ عَلَيْكَ سَتَجِدُنِي إِنْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. And I do not wish to be hard on you. If Allah please, you will find me of the good ones, inshaAllah. Meaning that I will be a good father-in-law. I will be a friend. I will be a person that will give advice. True? Then the ayah says what? قَالَ ذَلِكَ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَكَ. Meaning, Nabi Musa replied, he said, indeed, this is between me and you. Meaning what? There's this form of trust. This is what we started with. We started the lecture by defining trust. True? So there's that form of trust. And then here's the key point in this. That aqd, nowadays it's really weird. It's really amazing. Sometimes I've been invited to some nikah ceremonies. A lawyer is sitting down. A lawyer is sitting down. It has to be written in the contract. Everything has to be mentioned in the contract. What you're going to spend, what you're going to buy, what to do. Why? Because if nothing, we're going to sue you. We have the right to go. A lot of people don't understand that it's actually haram to go to a court which is not Islamic court. It's haram in terms of marriage. It is haram. It's not that no, maybe this. No. It is haram. Marriage issues need to always be solved at an Islamic court. This is what we say. There has to be shara in the middle. You cannot refer back to the Canadian court, or let's say, for example, an English court and say, what, I want a divorce. It doesn't happen this way. No, moreover, even some people amaze me. They say, you know what, I'm divorced. What do you mean you're divorced? Hey, I'm divorced. I went to the city and I got my divorce paper. How is this divorce? This is not divorce. Divorce happens, it's only when a marja or a sheikh or some his representative divorces you, or a man divorces you, your husband divorces you with witnesses. That's it. You can't be divorced through the city hall. It doesn't work out this way. And by the way, if you really go to the city hall sometimes a lot of people complain, why does divorce take a long time? Why does divorce take a long time? You know, if you go to the city hall and you apply for the divorce process, it takes 9 to 1 year. Just to let you know. So even according to the society, they do not like it if the divorce rate is really high. It doesn't happen this way. Why? Because they realize that it's something not good socially. True. So basically what Nabi Musa alayhi salam did what? What Nabi Shu'aib told Nabi Musa, the reason I said this is because what? أَيُّمَا الْأَجْرَيْنِ. Indeed, whichever of those two terms I fulfill, meaning be it 8 or 10, فَلَا عَدْوَانَ. I shall be no wrongdoing to me, it shall be no wrongdoing to me. And this is the key point. And Allah is a witness on what we say. So the contract, who should be the witness first? Allah. See, what's the difference between marriage and any other relationship? One word, Allah. It is that word, the acknowledgement of this word, that really makes the difference in marriage. And this is one of the first steps of the formal shape that marriage should be into. The secondly, and the marriage happened, weddings. I don't know where to start with this. This requires 3 lectures by God. Weddings can be a gate that you open to haram or halal. See, what we do is that we recite the nikah, the Maulana comes in, we carry the masbaha in front of the Maulana, he recites the nikah, the hijab is there, of course, not totally the hijab, because the hair is being done, and there's paint on the face, and the groom does not want to wrinkle his suit, so he cannot do salat. So anyways, they sit down, and then as soon as the Maulana goes, this is when that masbaha becomes something that you shake and dance. It's haram. That wedding, that recitation needs to be, the rules of the Islamic laws needs to be taken into consideration in those ceremonies. Why? Number one, there shouldn't be mingling. There should be total segregation. Yes, everybody, okay, Islam acknowledges that that whole wedding is something emotional. Everybody wants to be happy. Everybody's happy. The women are emotional. The men are happy. Therefore, they need to be segregated. Let the women have the thing. They have their own ceremony, and the men on the other side. Number two is that to not spend so much money on this. That money is tabdhir. And Allah says, إِنَّ الْمُبَدِّرِينَ كَانُوا إِخْوَانَ الشَّيَاطِينَ. Is that when you spend a lot without counting, you take into consideration the other people that are starving. Number three is that why not make that wedding ceremony, and I've been to a lot of them, and mashallah, they're wonderful, as an event in a masjid, or an imam barga, or a community center. Meaning what? That money that you're going to pay in a hall, which you don't know what happened before you there, is that come and put it in this community center. And this is what I would say, may Allah open up the minds of the Muslims and the representatives of our maraja in the Western world. And I mean what I say. Mainly the representatives of our maraja in the Western world. You know why? Because what we really need in this country is not an imam barga and a masjid more than we need schools and clubs and community centers. And I wish they contain wedding halls. Why do we have to go to other wedding halls that maybe there was alcohol in them and we need to investigate into the food and who's going to be the cook? We need to have our own halls. And I wish this happens. They're segregated, the Islamic rulings are being taken into consideration. And then from this weekend event, there's a lot of other replacements, meaning that haram music shouldn't be played. Therefore, you can restart. And a lot of people, what they do nowadays is that they bring the Maulana to the lecture, a Quran recitation, and then what's it called? Some poetry praising Ahlul Bayt sallallahu alayhim. A lot of people are ignorant about the ruling of fiqh. What do they think? They think as long as I bring, the words praising Ahlul Bayt, I can put them in any tune I want, and everybody dances Mastika like that. Doesn't work. No. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. This is haram. Ahlul Bayt, what do they say? The rulings of music. They say that the haram is in the tune. Why? You see, when we recite the Quran, we recite with the tune. So music at itself is not haram, meaning that tune is not haram. Yet if that tune is being recited by somebody else in a movie for Amitabh Bachchan or something like that, or any other, then it becomes haram. Don't bring me that same tune and say, oh no, this is praising Ahlul Bayt, it's saying Ali Ali. Makes no sense. Makes no sense at all. That's haram. It becomes haram from that. And in fact, you're degrading astaghfirullah Ahlul Bayt in that sense. Is that they have a status, do not include them in something that's being recited and what's being known amongst the people of Fisq al-Fujur. That you cannot do that. So that form, that wedding is a very important night. Very important. You start with halal, you'll always have a good life. You'll start with haram, haram will always be developed. Why? Because let's say later on you listened to a lecture or you read books and you realize that way you did this haram. When you want to come and implement that halal, the other part is going to get shocked. He's going to get shocked. So this is why, for example, you marry a girl who didn't wear hijab. Then all of a sudden later on, you know what? You need to wear hijab. Why? You took me without hijab. This is what happens all the time. There needs to be, and this is why it's going to take a long time. Because both sides need to understand. The woman needs to understand that fine, even if it took you without hijab, then you know what, now he's trying to actually take it one step further. He's trying to advance in religion. Unfortunately, that advance is only happening financially. True? And this leads me to what I want to say. Those, and they really amaze me, those couples who get married and the honeymoon has to be in Cuba, Acapulco, Mexico, I don't know what other countries there, Argentina, you name it. You name it. Those that go there, what are you doing? You see, my question is, what are you doing? Are you going to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the beach there? Does it make sense that you're surrounded with alcohol? No, I'm not drinking, but you're surrounded with it. Number two, what is your wife who's wearing hijab going to do? Is she a sultan? It doesn't make sense. But those people who actually start their life with renewing their covenant of wilayah, so what they do, they end up going to Najaf. This is what we do. Or for example, they end up going to Mashhad. Or they end up going to Sayyida Zainab alayha salam. They end up visiting Ahlul Bayt, Umrah, Hajj maybe. This is a true honeymoon, that you start your life and you open your gates by saying what? Oh, Ahlul Bayt, bless my marriage. This is what will happen. But Fidel Castro in Cuba is not going to bless your marriage. So when you go there, you're asking for Ahlul Bayt to bless your marriage. When they bless your marriage, by God, this marriage will continue. So there's so many examples to make about that. When you take your children to ziyarah, rather than taking them to Walt Disney, you take them to ziyarah. Let them have this karma. And there are so many examples to be given on that. I don't want to elaborate. I want to move to the next point. The next point is what? After we understand that this is the form and shape, the right form and shape that marriage should happen, and that walima should be humble, and inshallah, Allah will add the blessing to it, invite the mu'mineen. I mean, think about those poor ones. We end up giving the invitations only to the rich people in marriage. But those poor people need to eat. And sometimes, you know what does not make sense to me? Sorry. Sometimes when you come and you have to put that hadiyah a certain amount, why do I have to go pay for a dish now? I'll go to a restaurant and eat, and then you have to look good and stuff. That hadiyah, of course, it's good. It's something we're supporting the husband and the wife. There's nothing wrong with it. But then, therefore, they say if you have that wedding in the masjid, then there will be barakah in it. There will be barakah in it. But that will be different. And that remembrance of Allah is extremely vital when it comes to these ceremonies. Moving on to the next point I want to dissect tonight is basically what are the factors that strengthen the relationship of marriage. So after acknowledging all this was all as an introduction to the marriage life. What factors do one need, the couple need in order for them to strengthen the relationship of marriage? Sallallahu alaihi wa
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
The first factor that needs to be taken, inshallah, if I have time, we will dissect 7 factors. The first one that needs to be taken into consideration is the acknowledgement of roles. Meaning what? That both of them need to acknowledge that they have a role in the house. And mainly the role of the man, which is what? The guardianship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided that man with authority. Yet the man needs to understand and the woman needs to understand that this authority is not absolute. It's not unrestricted. Why? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق. You do not obey a creature when it comes to disobeying the Creator. It is always so. Therefore, the authority, the absolute authority is for who? For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A husband, he has authority, but he has no right to command his wife with haram. Do you understand? No right to command his wife with haram. No right to keep on pushing his wife to go to work. Because this is something we don't understand in this society sometimes. Is that they push it. No, go to work. Why don't you go work, go find a job. Why? Let's say she doesn't want to work. You know? Isn't it a blessing for her to sit home, for example, raise those children? Why? Sometimes what's happening to us, unfortunately, because we're so influenced with this media, is that we think that the role of a mother in raising a child is degrading. It's bad, it's culture, it's not logic. Who said that? One time, one of the beautiful narrations from Sayyid Ja'far al-Amri, he comments on it. He said that in his book, The Tragedy of Zahra, he said one time Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was sitting in the masjid with his companions. So he asked his companions, why would a woman be extremely close to her Lord, the closest to her Lord? Some companions said in her salat, some companions said in her dua, some companions said in her ibadah, hajj, or whatever. Then Imam Ali alayhi salam was sitting. He looked at Rasulullah, he said, Rasulullah, would you excuse me for a bit? Rasulullah smiled and he said, go Ali. Imam Ali alayhi salam, where did he go? The city, the gate of the city of the knowledge, right? Wait, where did he go? He went to Fatima alayhi salam. Why? Because it's a matter that is concerned, that has to do with women. So he went to ask a woman, and not any woman, a wise woman. Just like he was raised in the house of Rasulullah, she was raised in the house of Rasulullah. The source of knowledge is one, yet Ali wanted to make a point, prove a point, that his wife is compatible with him in terms of knowledge and education and wisdom and iman and taqwa. So therefore he went, the narration says that he knocked on the door of Fatima. So there is a door in the house of Ali and Fatima, unlike some others. He opened the door, she opened the door, and he entered. He said, Fatima, Rasulullah asked us a question. She said, what is it to Ali? He said, Rasulullah asked us that when would the woman be the closest to her Lord? Meaning, when would she be extremely close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Fatima alayhi salam replied back, she said, Ali, go tell my father Rasulullah, Fatima says that a woman, if she sits in the deepest spot in her house, meaning there's no other man looking at her, no other person looking at her. So basically there's so many opportunities and options for you to do in that house. Imam Ali alayhi salam goes back, enters the masjid, and Rasulullah asks him, oh Ali, did you get me the answer? He said yes. Fatima alayhi salam says that, oh Rasulullah, that a woman would be the closest to her Lord when she is on the deepest spot in her house. In the middle of her house, when she keeps in her house, Rasulullah smiled and he said, Fidaha abuha, Fidaha abuha, Fidaha abuha. May her father be a sacrifice to her. 3 times. So basically this is the whole notion. Understanding is that, you know what, there's a role for this woman to play in the house. Raising a child, do you think it's easy? It's not easy. They asked the mother of Muqaddas al-Haidery, how did you raise this child? How will your child became a Marja? So sometimes a woman can raise Maraja, can raise presidents, can raise leaders. What do you want more than this? So what's the difference is that if you send that child to the daycare so the woman can go work. The daycare, you trust it more than your own wife? This is what doesn't make sense to me sometimes. Your wife is going to teach them Muhammad and Al-Muhammad. The daycare is going to teach them the new jingle bells. This is the difference. So basically, we have to understand that there needs to be a role, that this child needs to be raised, not sent to a daycare. And this is wrong sometimes. So what happens in this case? What happens in this case is that understanding that there's a whole notion of guardianship. That the man has no authority, yet it is restricted by Sharia law. And this adds a responsibility to a man. In what sense? What the jurists say, and please pay very well attention to this, that if a man does not apply his Islamic rulings properly, and is not considered to be a mu'min, meaning he applies Islamic laws, this guardianship decreases. Meaning he won't have that guardianship anymore. In what sense? Meaning, let's say for example, you go to speak to a man who, God forbid, drinks alcohol. He has no authority over his daughter or his son. Because he's a drunk, he's safid, they say. This authority decreases, and it starts decreasing until it gets to the point that it might totally vanish. So he has no authority over them. If he tries to, why? Because you sit down with him, imagine trying to sit there sitting with a drunk man, vulgar man, or somebody who's, God forbid, is a drug addict. You know, how are you going to be able to speak with them? They say one drunk man one time came back home. His wife opened the door. When he opened the door, he pushed the door a little bit, he hit her head. She said, what's wrong with you? Don't you see me? He said, I did see you, but I can't remember where. So, his aql is gone. So what do you expect from him? So sometimes, you don't accept that. It's a person who does a haram. So that's one, is what? Acknowledging that the roles in the house is extremely important. The second factor, which is very vital in this case, is what? Avoiding the hour of rage and anger. That hour is what we say, Rasulullah says, it's the hour from the shaitan. So therefore avoid it. And very well avoid giving advice in that hour. You see, don't you see those annoying people sometimes? Is that they wait until you're totally angry and they want to come and give you advice. Brother, that's haram. What do you mean it's haram? It's haram. If you're going to say one more word, I'm going to smack you on the head. Imagine, they say, you know what? Oh, brother. Or somebody's angry and tell them, brother, it's time to pray. Well, don't, wait. You make them lose their deen in this way. And this is what happens sometimes, the problem between a husband and a wife, is that they all want to they want to lecture each other only in the time of anger. No, it doesn't happen. It's not going to work out this way. So avoid the hour, and the same way, do not try to preach within this hour. Don't give lectures when you're angry, or don't give lectures to someone when someone is angry. Number two is that do not extend the hour of anger and rage. That's why they recommend, for example, they recommend that if somebody's angry, like if two brothers are angry at each other, let them touch each other. Or a husband and wife are angry at each other, let them touch each other. So I was saying this to one of my friends, he said, oh no, don't worry. We push around each other like crazy. And I said, no. I said, come and touch them. And what's recommended is that you touch them over here, where the nerve pulse is. They say, why? This is where the blood flows. And because there's a connection, Allah made mercy and compassion, it will flow. So therefore, touch each other in a gentle way, in a merciful way. And even I'll tell you a secret too. When a Sayyid gets angry, do the same thing with him, by the way. Touch him here. Because when Sayyids get angry, they're unstoppable. Especially Muslim Sayyids. Even those that Imam al-Kadhim, he was given the title al-Kadhim, meaning the one who, what's it called, who defeats his angry. He doesn't, but subhanAllah, the angriest of the Muslim Sayyids. The Kadhim Sayyid, the Muslim Sayyid. So therefore, when even when a Sayyid is angry, or somebody's angry, you always, or you have a friend, touch them. Try to come close to them and touch them and calm down. He says, Imam Khomeini, with the Sirr al-Sharif, even takes it further. He said when somebody's angry, they're of two levels. One level is that they're angry, you leave them until they calm down. No, sometimes when they're too angry, you need to confront them with a greater anger. In his book, 40 Hadith. Meaning what? Somebody comes to you. Say, for example, Yusuf comes to Wael, and he said, oh, Wael, I want to go kill Ali. True? So what should I do in this case? No, wait, please, no, let's go me and you. So then he's going to see that there's a reaction which is greater. If he's going to see a greater reaction, don't worry about it. You're good. Alhamdulillah. Tonight you're good. Tonight's being tonight you're good. The food is not poison, trust me. So you know what? They're going to see a greater reaction. When you see a greater reaction, the person calms down and say, okay, you know what? I'm the one who has the problem. What's with you? So they're going to calm down. So this is what needs to happen. Is that sometimes you need to confront them with a greater anger. Yet the majority of the times is that you need to avoid them. And number two, do not extend that time. Seriously, it's an hour of shaitan. It's not good. The shaitan comes in the middle. Rasulullah has a beautiful narration. He says there are only two people from my ummah who have a dispute between each other. And they stay away from each other for 3 days, except that they have left the wilaya of Ahlul Bayt and they entered the wilaya of the shaitan. And whoever comes to his Muslim brother first, goes to Jannah first. So one needs to take this into consideration, understand this, that there needs to be mercy and compassion amongst the Muslim Ummah. And sorry if this heat can be really turned off because it's really hot. It's possible.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So basically this meaning what? And do not extend it, because the more you extend it, the more that you extend disputes, it's going to happen. And therefore what the scholars say, one needs to acknowledge that it's good to apologize fast.
MashaAllah.
There's nothing wrong with it. Whoever is wrong, apologizes fast. Whoever is wrong would come to the other person, please them with good words, explain to them their situation and apologize. True, because the longer you stay angry from each other, the more the shaitan is going to come in the middle, and the more you open up the floor for other people to come in the middle. The more you're going to open up a gap, the children are going to realize sooner or later. So, do not extend it, and do not extend that time of dispute between the two. See, a sudden guy once saw his friend. He met up his friend for a coffee, and his friend was angry. He was sad. He said, what's wrong with you? Why are you sad? Why are you down? Why are you depressed? He said, you know what? My wife fought with me. We had a fight, and we had a huge argument. And then she told me that I won't speak to you for 1 whole month. He said, no, you're angry. Should be a good thing, maybe. He said, no, that's not why I'm sad. He said, then why are you sad? He said, I'm sad because the month is almost over. So basically, that's one of the Another factor that one needs to also understand that really builds up a strong marriage is extremely important, by the way. I know it's minor and it's simple. It's the factor of decorating yourself for one another. Is that it is extremely recommended for a woman to decorate herself for her man. And the vice versa, that a man also decorates himself for a woman. Why? You see, sometimes what we see outside might really affect us. Sometimes the beautiful imagery outside really comes back home and we start comparing. That might happen. See, they say, there's this one of the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He went. He went to one of the battlefields. One of the battlefields was called Ghazwat Mu'ta. He went and they were battling with the Romans. The Romans had a tactic in the wars. What did they do? They used their women to basically deceive the other men from the opposite party. True? So at that point, that companion was known to be married to his wife, living happily, they loved each other. When he went to that battle, when he came back from this battle, he sat down, his wife prepared food for him, they sat down together, and he was eating. When he was eating, he kept on staring at her. And then she told him, what is wrong with you? It's the first time we've been married for 10 years and you're staring at me this way. He said, you know what, I realized that the mole on your face is getting bigger. So she smiled. She said, SubhanAllah, for 10 years you never even realized that I have a mole. You never even told me that I do have a mole. Now after you came back and you saw the Roman woman, what happened is that you saw it. So this is why Rasulullah, when he heard this, Rasulullah said this famous narration, lower your gaze and you will see wonders. Lower your gaze, and sometimes it's from both sides, is that don't look a lot outside and compare. And try to make something of what you have to match what you see outside. True? For example, this woman who goes to work and one of her colleagues comes every day dressed like as if he just walked out of GQ. Then she comes back home, she looks at her husband and he's dressed like as if he just walked out of DQ. There we go. So don't compare. Don't make this comparison. When you make this comparison, this won't work. Be it on both sides. True? So that's the fourth one. The fifth one that we'll speak about is that it is also very simple yet extremely meaningful. Creating activities together. One needs to understand that the more you have activities together, the more you spend time together, the more you create something to do together. And it can be very simple, such as a walk, for example. Or even, that's why it is important within this factor to educate yourself. Meaning it's good. Imagine both of them read. Or both of them don't spend a lot of time on TV. They read, they research, they share information, they share a lot of things together. You know, now in Maraja, believe it or not, a lot of the fiqh masail, they share it with their wives. They sit down and they talk and they debate, and she gives their opinion, he gives her opinion. So that activity increases that love life. Wow. It increases it a lot. It increases the connection. That there's always something that you look forward to. And by God, there's so many couples that they even compete with each other in terms of poetry. Who writes the best poem? Or who writes this poem? It's amazing, by Allah. Therefore, that's why we said before, that always look for somebody compatible in that sense, in terms of education and knowledge and maturity and wisdom. So that's it. And create an activity. And one of the most important activities is traveling around. Why? Because a woman, when she's staying home, obviously raising the children, it's an effort. So it's good sometimes to go, let's say, travel around, be it to ziyarah or umrah, going back home, for example, visiting the family, the parents. And it makes a big difference. So these activities are extremely important. The last one that I would like to touch upon, and one really needs to understand it, which is a very important factor, and I think this is what really makes up a lot. Being able to keep the marital secrets. You see, marriage life is something secret, true? And therefore it should stay secret. Everything that happens between the husband and the wife, one of the biggest mistakes to ever do is to share them outside. This is when you will ruin your house, not from the top, no, but literally the foundation. This is when you're taking the main foundation in the house and say, you know what, this is how the house gets ruined. So don't go on Facebook say, oh, my husband got me this on Valentine's Day. Or this, you know what, he didn't remember my birthday. Or then go share with others. So, and this marital secret notion really also leads us to understanding the family affairs and who do we mingle with. That the couple need to understand that yes, a family or somebody close to you, your mother, your father, they're close to you. Yet your wife and your husband are also close to you too, and they're closer. True? Why? Because you cannot share everything outside. Some of the things you need to be able to keep, you can't share them even with a best friend. So you need to be able to know who do you share your secrets with. Therefore they say it's recommended that when you go back, if you have a problem, be it husband and wife, refer back to religion, to deen, like a religious authority. Why? Because they'll be able to give you the opinion of religion and not the emotional opinion. And it is wonderful, by the way, if you have a father-in-law on both sides, let's say, for example, that he's wise and mature, who's able to be detached, is able to detach himself and kind of give the right ruling or the right opinion on both sides. It's something wonderful. It even adds up more. Yet one needs to understand, and you need to understand the type of friends that you mingle with. But those type of friends, what kind of an influence are they going to have on you? Is it a really positive influence or a negative influence? Are they on your level? And I mean meaning level, not meaning financial level. Well, no, because sometimes the problem is that they are above your financial level. Why? Because this might open up the gate on things that you start comparing. Just like we said earlier. So one needs to be content and understand this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has apportioned for me. And since He had apportioned this for me, this is my portion from life. You need to understand this. Do not desire a lot. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah wa salam alayhi has He says what? عجبت لابن آدم. I wonder about the son of human, the son of Adam. يقارن دنياه بمن فوقه ودينه بمن دونه. He always compares his financial status to whoever is above him. Yet he always compares his religious status to whoever is below him. This is why Ali ibn Abi Talib says, I wonder about this. When you really, something's really that you need to wonder about. Somebody always say, oh, Fulan has this, oh, inshallah, then I'm going to be like this, I'm going to do. Yet when it comes to deen, oh, you know what, at least some people don't pray. I pray, alhamdulillah. Well, at least I pray. Some people say, you know what, well, Fulan doesn't even fast, at least I fast. No, always compare the deen, your religious belief, to whoever is better than you. And then your dunya to whoever is below you. Because then you would connect and understand and you'd have sympathy over that. True? So all these factors really make it. There's so many factors, of course, that we can't really cover them in nights and nights. Yet these are, I think, the fundamentals that every couple needs to take into consideration in order for us to continue in that marriage life. Because it is sad sometimes that we made the hardest thing that Rasulullah made, which was divorce. Now it's becoming really easy, and this will ruin our society. It will ruin the children. And sometimes it won't result in something better. And you would go look at this couple, and you know what? They're still the same. Nothing really changed. They even carried the same problems to another marriage, for example, they might have done. So one needs to understand that, first of all, that let go of that ego inside you. Understand your role, and take this person and be content. Or study this person and then understand. And then get to an understanding together and to a common ground. Sure, look into that. For example, how when Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam sent Aqil alayhi salam to propose for al-Banin. What a mother of al-Banin. By God, that title that was given to her by Ali ibn Abi Talib. al-Banin, the mother of the boys. Meaning what? Not meaning the mother of the boys because she brought him boys, no. Meaning those titles, they mean something. When you say Ali ibn Abi Talib is Abu Turab, that doesn't mean that, you know what, he's the father of this son, no. This is when the kafir says, Ya laytani kuntu turaba, in the Quran. When the kafir says, well, I wish I was sand, meaning I wish I was one of the followers of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ali ibn Abi Talib is, when you say al-Banin meaning the one that she knew how to raise those boys. Why? See, the narration says that when Aqil alayhi salam proposed to al-Banin, he told her, I would like to marry you to my brother Ali. Proposed to her father. Her father went and asked her. al-Banin said yes, yet I have a condition. What do you mean this is, you know? al-Banin didn't say yes just because Ali ibn Abi Talib was proposing to her. Why? Because then you understand from the condition that she put. Number one, she said yes because she acknowledged not only that he was Ali ibn Abi Talib, no. Number one, she acknowledged that it was the Imam of her time proposing to her. How many of us now raise daughters that maybe Imam al-Zaman would propose to them? Why not? If the Imam of her time proposed to her, that's one. Two, because she knew that she will have the honor to be the wife of the man who has children who are the children of Fatima Zahra alayhi salam. And that's why the condition that she put it before she enters to the house of Ali. She said, normally the husband needs to go bring the wife, true? al-Banin said, no, decorate me, put me on a camel, on a saddle, and take me to Ali. The narration says that she stopped the camel outside, and then she said, she went down, and she said to Ali ibn Abi Talib, please take permission from Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein and Sayyid Zayn. She said, please take their permission. But permission in what? Marriage? Accept me as a wife? Accept me as a mother? No. Take their permission if they're willing to accept me as a servant in yours. Ask them if they would give me the honor to serve them. You think this is something easy? This is acknowledging that her status. What is her ego? Totally eliminated herself. What was the result? What was the result? The result was Allah told al-Banin, you humbled yourself to that extent? If you humbled yourself to that extent, I will give you a son who will be Bab al-Hawaj. This is the reward. A woman who really knows how to humble herself and wipe away that ego, Allah will reward her 100 times more. And the vice versa to a man who knows how to humble himself. You think Rasulullah, the examination he was put through with his wives is easy? No. The result that imagine she steps into the house of Ali ibn Abi Talib and she hears Ali, as soon as Ali ibn Abi Talib calls her Fatima, because her name was Fatima al-Amiriya, she says, oh Ali, I don't want you to call me Fatima. He said, why? She said, because that name was given to the best woman in the street of Islam. And secondly, I don't want Hassan, Hussein, and Sayyida Zainab that every time you might call me Fatima, they might remember their mother Fatima. And these are the orphans of Fatima. I don't want them to cry. Oh, Ali, give me a title. He said, your title is al-Banin. Yet that title was not given to her for no reason. By God, that title of al-Banin, meaning what? Meaning the one who would raise the children and the sons of Ali. And she will raise them to the point that they would sacrifice their life and themselves before the sons of Ali. And therefore, brothers and sisters, the narration says that when the poet Bishr ibn Havlam came back to Medina before the carriage of Ahlul Bayt returned from Sham to Medina, he entered the Medina and he yelled out, oh the people of Yathrib, oh the people of Medina, do not stay in it anymore. Hussein is killed and the tears have been shed on him. A woman, the Bishop ibn Havlam describes, he says that a woman came out carrying a child on her hand. She said, what are you saying? He said, who are you? She said, I am al-Banin. He said, al-Banin. She said, I heard you say something about Hussein. What happened to Hussein? Listen, she didn't even ask about Abbas, not about On, not about Ja'far. She tells him, tell me what happened to Hussein. He says, oh al-Banin, عظم الله لك الأجر بولدك عون. Oh al-Banin, عظم الله لك الأجر by your son, with your son Aun. Your son Aun has been killed. She says, will be upon you. I didn't ask you about Aun. I asked you about Hussein. He said, oh al-Banin, عظم الله لك الأجر بولدك جعفر. She said, will be upon you. I didn't ask you about my son Ja'far. never sons existed in front of Hussein. I asked you about my son Hussein. He said, البنين عظم الله لك الأجر بولدك العباس. Oh, البنين, only if you would look at your son Abbas. That when Imam Zain al-Abidin came back to bury the bodies, he buried the body of Abbas, yet what was missing from the body of Abbas? Ya Zain al-Abidin, you have to look on the side of the river, that you may find the arms of Abbas. And then he continued, البنين عظم الله لك الأجر بولدك العباس. And then البنين, the narration says, the child drops from her hand, and she goes down, and she says, oh Bishr, you have shattered my heart into pieces. Tell me about Hussein. He said, Ya al-Baneen, what would I tell you about Hussein? And then he says, in a poetic sense, Ya al-Baneen, if you would ask me about Hussein, then note that Hussein, the body of Hussein is on the land of Karbala, without a cover or a kafan, on the hot sand of Karbala, under the sun. Yet the head of Hussein was on the top of a spear, and it entered to the court of Yazid. One of the narrations said that Yazid, la'natullahi alayh, he put the head of Hussein in front of him on a pot, and then he carried a bamboo stick, and he started whipping the blessed lips of Hussein. One of the people sitting in the court, he tells him, Yazid, do not whip the lips of Hussein, for I've seen the lips of Rasulullah kiss them so many times. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. اللهم عجل فرجه وسهل مخرجه واجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه والمستشهدين بين يديه والطالبين رثارات جده الحسين تحت لوائه. وصل اللهم على محمد وآله الطاهرين.